The Joe Rogan Experience.
We do a teacher training, a yoga training in India every January. I just got back from it.
Yeah, I saw it on your Instagram.
It's great. It's super fun. We have 3 academies. We have a music school where we study Indian music in Kirtan. We have a 300-hour training for people who are already teachers, and we have a sacred literature. So you study the Bhagavad Gita and all these sacred texts.
We were talking about that before the podcast. I really wanted to get into that eventually. I just didn't know how to, like, the mystical aspects of the Bhagavad Gita and of the Mahabharata, all the ancient Indian texts, which are filled with really wild, out there shit. You know, I mean,
it's all real. All that crazy stuff is real.
In what way? Like,
just like all the things that you say, like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's fascinating. That's fantastic. The more you get into it, you realize that's freaking real, man.
Like what? Like what's real?
Everything from like
the Vimanas,
things like that. I can't say are real, but I could understand how things can be made of subtle energy.
Well, explain Vimanas to people.
Vimana is like a spaceship.
Yes.
It's a spaceship and they speak of spaceships and flying crafts, but they're not made of the same elements of this earth.
Right.
So we have all these things about, and I get it. There's a bunch of people making up shit about I saw an alien, etc. But there's also very qualified people, Air Force colonels and things like that.
I've had them in here.
You've had them in? Yeah. They said, what kind of, and they suffer from the same thing, these people who claim abduction. It's not like a type of neurosis or schizophrenia. They suffer from like post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yes.
Like something happened, they disappeared, they were found 2 weeks later.
Do you remember the story of Betty and Barney Hill?
No.
It's the most famous abduction story. It was an interracial couple from, I think it was the 1950s or the 1960s. And just randomly.
My interviews always go here.
I had this girl on the podcast, this woman on the podcast yesterday. She's an MMA fighter. Her name is Angela Hill. She's a couple days ago, actually. This badass MMA fighter. And at the end of the podcast, she goes, I forgot to bring this up. My grandfather is Barney Hill. I was like, that guy. I'm like, no fucking way. That guy, Barney Hill, was the very first, like, really public UFO abductee. And there's and he describes his craft that's eerily similar to the crafts that Bob Lazar has described and different people described. And he and his wife lost time while they were driving, and then woke up with these bizarre, horrific memories that they both shared of this encounter with these space beings, and that they were abducted, and they were medical examinations were run on them, then they were replaced with missing time. And it's crazy if you listen to the recordings of him being hypnotized and going through it, like screaming in fear that they're touching him, and where are they taking him, what are they doing to him. It's not like a guy acting. It's not like a scene in a movie where someone's screaming in fear. It sounds real. And the
teachings of ancient India is that life exists on all planets. It even exists on the sun. And so the first argument would be like, come on, how are we going to exist? They just don't have bodies that are different than yours. They have a fire body. And therefore, I'm trying to look at how does a person with earth and water body live in the sun? They can't.
Right.
You have to have a body. I mean, I used to think like this when I was 13 years old.
Right.
I used to think like, okay, why can my dog hear those sounds, but I can't hear them?
Right.
What am I missing? What sense am I missing that I can't have objective reality?
Yeah.
What am I missing? Am I missing a sense?
Well, I have this principle called the fart theory. Like, if someone farted but you didn't have a nose, you'd have no idea.
You'd have no idea?
You'd have no idea. You'd be like, oh, God, what is that?
That fart theory is the beginning of transcendental thought.
Yeah, because there's a sense that you possess that allows you to
access.
Recognize something that's invisible. You can't see it. You can't feel it. You can't hold it. There's no way of detecting it other than your olfactory senses. But through your nose, you can detect that something's awful.
What sense am I missing that's keeping me from understanding absolute reality?
Sure. I mean, that's one of the things that you feel when you take psychedelics. Like, is this opening up some new sense that is this around me all the time? I'm just not tuned into it because I don't have the right chemical composition flowing through my brain.
When I start to teach a bigger training, like a yoga training in philosophy, that's one of the things I do mainly. I start with this concept of this is how you understand. Like when I first approached teachers when I went to India, I would say things like, I'm reading this Mahabharata. I think it's a great book, a lot of great lessons here. But come on, we're adults. Am I supposed to understand that a elephant-headed man scribed this entire book? Can't we just extract a useful lesson? And the answer was very good that I got was, and it was very sweet. It wasn't like cruel. He just said, what do you know? It sort of like caught me off guard. Like, what do you actually know?
Right. What do you know?
And he used this example. You're from New York? Okay. Suppose 300 years ago you're living in New York, your family's living in New York, your tribe is living in New York, you have a certain amount of animals and animals that you keep, animals that you ride, animals that you hunt, foods you eat, and then one of you goes on a boat to Africa. And you come back and you think, you're never going to believe what I saw. I saw a striped horse. You're thinking, well, I've seen striped horses. White head, black neck. No. I saw a striped horse. If you've never seen a zebra, it's almost unbelievable if all you know is ponies.
Right.
Or I saw this horse with a really long neck that ate the leaves on the trees. Come on, man. It's all fantastic because we've never seen it.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't. So to really understand the Vedas, the teachings of ancient India, you have to go into it like, not that it's all real. I'm not saying to just blind faith, but I'm not saying don't be a blind doubter. Like it's all unreal. That's bullshit. That's crazy. That's nuts. It's got to be, could be. I don't know, but I don't know a lot.
What do you think what do you think like Ganesh was?
Ganesh is a being.